Your neighbors may walk past your yard this summer and stop, not because you worked harder than they did, not because you spent every weekend on your knees, not because you bought the most expensive fertilizer, sprayed on a schedule, or replanted half the garden every spring. They stop because you made one smart decision early. You planted flowers that know how to come back. That is the difference between a garden that drains your time and a garden that pays you back. Some plants look beautiful for one season, then disappear. Some give you a few weeks of color, then demand more water, more feeding, more dividing, more attention. But the right perennials are different. You plant them once. You give them the right start. Then they return year after year, often bigger, stronger, and more beautiful than before. Some can live for decades. Some multiply into free plants. Some bloom in places where annuals fail. And one of them can still be flowering in the same spot 50 years from now if you plant it correctly. Today, we are going through 9 long-lasting perennials that are worth the space they take. Real plants, real variety names, real USDA zones, and the simple mistake to avoid with each one. Because low-maintenance gardening is not about doing nothing. It is about making choices that keep working long after the first season ends. Let's begin with the flower that may outlive the person who plants it. Peony is not just a perennial. It is a living heirloom. A peony planted by someone's grandmother 50 years ago can still be blooming in the same yard today. Some clumps have been known to live for a century when they are planted correctly and left undisturbed. That is the magic of Paeonia. But most failures happen because of one simple mistake. The plant was buried too deep. Peonies grow from crowns with small red or pink buds called eyes. Those eyes must sit only about 1 to 2 inches below the soil surface. Any deeper, and the plant may still look healthy. It may produce lush green leaves every spring, but it will refuse to bloom. That is why so many gardeners think peonies are difficult, when the plant is actually just sitting at the wrong depth. The second mistake is moving it too soon. Peonies need time to settle. In the first year or two, they may not give you their best flowers. That does not mean they failed. It means they are building the root system that may carry them for decades. For classic beauty, look for Sarah Bernhardt, with huge, soft, pink double blooms and rich fragrance. For deeper color, Carl Rosenfield gives strong crimson flowers on vigorous plants. In warmer areas where traditional peonies struggle without enough winter chill, Ito hybrids like Bartzella are often a better choice, offering large yellow flowers and stronger heat tolerance. Most peonies thrive in USDA zones 3 through 8. Give them full sun, good drainage, and patience. After establishment, avoid heavy nitrogen fertilizer. A light spring top dressing of compost is usually enough. Peony does not need constant help. It needs the right depth, the right place, and the chance to become permanent. Daylilies sound disappointing until you understand how they actually bloom. The name Hemerocallis means beauty for a day, because each individual flower opens in the morning and fades by night. But a mature daylily clump does not produce one flower. It produces stem after stem, bud after bud, with fresh blooms opening day after day for weeks. That is why this plant has lasted in American gardens for generations. It forgives almost everything: clay soil, sandy soil, hot driveways, slopes, partial shade, dry spells, and winter cold. Most dependable daylilies grow well in USDA zones 3 through 9. For a compact, reliable rebloomer, start with Stella de Oro. It stays low, handles containers, and borders beautifully, and sends up golden yellow flowers in repeated waves. Happy Returns gives a softer lemon-yellow bloom. Pardon Me brings deeper red flowers with a yellow throat. The mistake is treating daylilies too generously. Too much water and too much nitrogen can give you huge green fans with fewer flowers. Once established, daylilies often bloom better in lean, slightly dry soil than in rich, overfed beds. They are not asking for constant attention. They are asking for space, sun, and restraint. Every 3 or 4 years, if the clump becomes crowded and flowering slows, dig it up in early spring or early fall. divide it into sections with 3 to 5 fans each, then replant. One plant becomes many, and each division often blooms harder once it has room again. That is the beauty of daylilies. They do not just come back. They multiply your garden for free. Hellebores are the answer to the shady part of the garden most people give up on. That quiet corner under a tree, the north side of the house, the place where summer flowers stretch, fade, or never bloom properly. Hellebores do something completely different. They wake up when the rest of the garden is still asleep. In late winter or early spring, sometimes while the air still feels cold, they produce elegant cup-shaped flowers in white, soft pink, dusty rose, plum, green, and nearly black. And those flowers do not vanish in a few days. They can remain beautiful for weeks. By the time the blooms finally fade, the foliage takes over, giving you strong, glossy leaves that keep the shade garden looking finished through the rest of the season. The best group to look for is Helleborus cross hybridus, often sold as Lenten rose. Series like Wedding Party or Icen roses offer stronger flower forms and beautiful colors. Anna's red is especially striking if you want deep color in late winter light. Hellebores grow well in USDA zones 4 through 9. They are deer-resistant, drought-tolerant once established, and long-lived without needing division. The main mistake is cutting the foliage at the wrong time. Do not cut old leaves off in fall. Leave them through winter to protect the crown. Then, in late winter, just before the flowers rise, remove the tired old foliage so the blooms can show clearly. That is almost all the maintenance they ask for. Hellebores prove that shade does not have to be empty. It can be quiet, elegant, and alive before spring has even begun. Siberian iris is the iris for gardeners who do not want iris drama. It is not the same as the tall, bearded iris that needs frequent division, struggles with borers, and often looks tired after flowering. Iris siberica is cleaner, tougher, and much easier to live with. The foliage is one of its best features. Long, narrow, grass-like leaves rise in neat clumps and stay attractive from spring until frost. Even after the flowers are gone, the plant still gives structure to the garden instead of collapsing into a messy pile. In late spring, Siberian iris sends up elegant blooms in shades of violet blue, white, yellow, soft pink, and deep purple. The flowers look refined, almost watercolor-like, but the plant itself is extremely durable. Look for Caesar's brother for classic deep violet blue flowers. Butter and sugar gives white and yellow blooms that feel bright and fresh. Ruffled velvet brings a darker purple-red tone with more drama. Most Siberian iris varieties grow well in USDA zones 3 through 9. They appreciate consistent moisture, especially while flowering. But once established, they can handle ordinary garden conditions with very little care. If you have a rain garden, a low spot, or soil that stays slightly moist, this plant may thrive where others complain. And unlike bearded iris, Siberian iris does not need to be divided every couple of years. A strong clump can perform beautifully for 10, 15, even 20 years before it finally needs attention. When the center begins to thin and bloom declines, divide it in early spring or fall. Until then, leave it alone. Siberian iris is proof that elegance does not have to be fragile. False indigo is the plant for gardeners who are tired of replacing things. Baptisia australis is a native North American perennial built for difficult ground, especially dry, rocky, lean soil where softer plants struggle. At first it may seem slow. The first year, it often sits there quietly. The second year, it improves. But by the third year, you begin to understand what it was doing all along. It was building a deep taproot. That taproot is the reason Baptisia can live for 20 to 30 years in the same place with almost no help from you. Once established, it becomes drought-tolerant, sturdy, and nearly impossible to disturb without regret. So the most important rule is simple. Choose the planting spot carefully, then leave it alone. Do not move Baptisia after it settles in. Mature plants hate transplanting because that deep root system does not like being broken. In late spring to early summer, Baptisia produces lupine-like flower spikes, usually in deep indigo blue, though newer varieties offer yellow, white, smoky purple, and soft bicolor tones. After the flowers fade, inflated seed pods remain, adding texture and a gentle rattle in the fall wind. The foliage stays clean and blue-green through summer, giving the plant a shrub-like presence even when it is not blooming. For the classic look, grow the straight species, Baptisia australis. For something moodier, try purple smoke. For yellow flowers, lemon meringue is a strong choice. Most perform well in USDA zones 3 through 9. False indigo teaches patience. If you need instant drama, buy annuals. If you want a plant that gets better for decades, plant Baptisia and give it time. Coneflowers are where gardeners need to be careful with temptation, because the plain, classic Echinacea purpurea is often stronger than the expensive hybrid sitting beside it at the nursery. Those fancy double flowers in orange, lime, coral, and red can look spectacular in a pot, but many of them do not live as long as the simple species or the older proven cultivars. They bloom beautifully for a season or two, then they shrink, then they disappear. Meanwhile, the old purple coneflower keeps standing in the same garden year after year. That is why reliability matters more than novelty. For long-term success, start with the straight species Echinacea purpurea, or proven varieties like Magnus, White Swan, and Kim's Knee-High. Magnus's gives large rose-purple flowers with strong stems. White Swan gives you the same toughness in white. Kim's Knee-High works well in smaller spaces. Coneflowers grow best in USDA, zones 3 through 9, in full sun and well-drained soil. Drainage is the one thing they truly demand. They do not like wet feet, especially in winter. Do not overfeed them either. Rich soil can make the plants floppy and more disease-prone. Let them grow a little lean, and when the flowers fade, do not cut every seed head off in fall. Leave them standing. Goldfinches, chickadees, and other birds will feed from them through winter, and some seeds may fall and grow into new plants in spring. Coneflower teaches a simple lesson. The plant with the loudest color is not always the one that lasts. Sometimes the strongest choice is the old one that has already proven itself. Autumn joy sedum is the plant most gardeners ruin by being too generous. Too much water, too much fertilizer, too rich a bed, and suddenly the plant grows tall, soft, and weak. By late summer, the stems flop open from the center like a collapsed umbrella. That is not because sedum is fragile. It is because it was treated like a plant that wanted comfort. It does not. Autumn joy is a cold, hardy, succulent perennial. Its thick leaves and stems store water, allowing it to thrive in dry, lean, fast-draining soil where many other perennials struggle. Full sun is important, so is restraint. Do not fertilize it heavily. Do not keep it constantly moist. Do not plant it in rich, soggy soil. Give it lean ground, gravelly soil, or a dry, sunny border, and the plant builds stronger stems that stand upright without staking. Autumn joy grows well in USDA zones 3 through 9. It is drought-tolerant once established, deer-resistant in many gardens, and valuable across more than one season. In spring, the new succulent growth is clean and attractive. In summer, the plant forms a sturdy green mound. In late summer, the flower heads open soft pink, then they deepen into copper, bronze, and russet tones through fall. Even in winter, the dried seed heads can remain standing, giving structure when most flowers are gone. Autumn joy teaches one of the most important lessons in long-lived gardening. Some plants do not need more care. They need less interference. Daffodils are one of the best long-term investments you can make in a spring garden. And yet, many gardeners underestimate them because they think of them as temporary bulbs, like tulips. But daffodils are different. In many North American gardens, tulips give you one beautiful year, maybe 2 or 3, then slowly fade away. Daffodils can multiply. A single bulb becomes a clump becomes a drift, and over time, that drift can look like it has always belonged there. Plant them in fall, about 6 to 8 inches deep, in full sun to light shade and well-drained soil. Most daffodils perform well in USDA zones 3 through 8, with some varieties handling warmer zone 9 conditions. For reliable naturalizing, look for Ice Follies, a strong white and cream variety that multiplies beautifully. Tete-a-tete is a miniature daffodil that works well at the front of borders or in containers. Thalia gives elegant white flowers and helps extend the season. The biggest mistake is cutting the foliage too early. After the flowers fade, the leaves may look messy, but they are feeding the bulb underground. Leave them for about 6 weeks until they yellow and collapse naturally. Cut them too soon, and next year's flowers weaken. Plant daffodils in drifts of 25 or 50 bulbs instead of stiff little rows. Then leave them alone. Every spring, they return with more confidence, more flowers, and less work from you. If you feel overwhelmed by all the choices, start with Black-Eyed Susan. Rudbeckia fulgida is one of the most forgiving native perennials you can plant. Golden yellow petals, dark brown centers, strong stems, and color from midsummer into fall, right when many gardens start looking tired. The classic variety is Goldsturm. It stays compact, usually around 18 to 24 inches tall, and it creates a bright, cheerful mass without needing constant attention. Planted in full sun, in average to poor soil, across USDA zones 3 through 9. Do not overfeed it. Too much richness can make the plant taller and weaker. Every 3 or 4 years, divide crowded clumps in early spring to restore bloom and create free plants. And when winter comes, leave some seed heads standing. Birds will use them, and your garden keeps its structure after the flowers are gone. Black-Eyed Susan is simple, reliable, and generous. Exactly what a long-lasting garden needs. Here is the rule that saves long-lived perennials. Establishment is not maintenance. In the first year, many plants are not trying to impress you. They are building roots. Peonies settle. Baptisia drives down a taproot. Hellebores adjust to shade. Daffodils store energy underground. So do not panic if year 1 looks quiet. Water regularly during the first season. Mulch around the root zone, but never bury the crown. Avoid heavy nitrogen. And do not keep moving plants because they look slow. Give them 1 full year before judging them. A perennial garden rewards patience first, then gives beauty back for years. A long-lasting garden is not built by buying more plants every spring. It is built by choosing plants that get stronger with time. Peonies can become living heirlooms. Daylilies multiply into free divisions. Hellebores bring flowers to shade before spring even begins. Siberian iris gives elegance without constant division. Baptisia rewards patience with decades of structure. Coneflowers feed birds and return with quiet strength. Autumn joy sedum proves that less care can mean better growth. Daffodils multiply underground while you wait. And Black-Eyed Susan keeps the garden glowing when summer starts to fade. These plants are not about one perfect weekend of color. They are about momentum. Year 1, they settle. Year 2, they strengthen. Year 3, they begin paying you back. That is the kind of gardening that saves money, time, and energy. Not lazy gardening, smart gardening. So start with 1 plant from this list. Choose the one that matches your light, your soil, and your USDA zone. Plant it correctly. Give it the first season of care it needs. Then stop interrupting it. Let the roots deepen. Let the clumps expand. Let the garden become more beautiful without asking you to begin again every spring. If this video helped you choose a plant that could stay with you for years, subscribe for more practical gardening guides built around beauty, value, and less wasted effort. And before you go, tell me in the comments, what state or USDA zone are you gardening in? And which of these long-lasting perennials would you plant first? Plant once, be patient, and let the garden start paying you back.